As our Secretary Dr. Sadachar has mentioned that we have conducted this series on various laws related to medical practice. So today is the third and last day of this series. Dr. J.K. Gupta sir, Dr. Satish Agrawal sir, Dr. Rajesh Bhai Boop sir, and to this webinar. I also welcome Gangulia sir, who are the mastermind behind this particular webinar, and I welcome them as a moderator. Friends, we all know that till now, well versed about all these amendments when we are in practice, because the slightest mistake in maintaining the records or in documentation may land us in trouble, and that's why we must update ourselves regarding these various laws. So also we have policies nowadays the whole market is flooded with the different types of policies. So which one is right, which ones to choose, which one we should do as our professional. So all these things are important for us to know. So we are having all learned faculties to discuss all these issues. So without wasting much of time, once again, I welcome you all on this digital platform on behalf of Maharashtra IAP. Thank you very much, and over to Dr. Hemant sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jayant Pandarikar sir. Namaste and good afternoon, dear respected viewers, for joining with us for this webinar. And once again, heartfelt thanks to our beloved CIP President Dr. Bakul Parekh sir, as well as Honorary Secretary General Dr. Basav Raj, as well our beloved President, Maha-IP President Dr. Jayant Pandarikar sir, and our dynamic Secretary Dr. Sadachar, of Secretary of the Maha-IP, to give us this digital platform to talk across with you all pediatricians for this webinar on this penalty shoot, defending the lawsuits. Myself, Dr. Hemant Gangolia, President of IIP Raigad branch, Maharashtra, feels extremely fortunate to be part of this webinar as a moderator and to share the platform with the co-moderator, the legendary figure, founder, member of Indian Medical Legal and Ethics Association, as well as founder member of Human Milk Banking, Dr. Satish Tiwari Sarji, as well dynamic, modest personality, the president of IIP Medical Legal Chapter, Dr. Sahani Sarji, who was past president of IMLEA, Indian Medical Legal and Ethics Association. I do welcome both my co-moderators and the sirs. The outline of this webinar will be 10 to 12 minutes presentations by our guest speakers, and then at the end of all the presentation, we will have question answer sessions. Dr. Sahani sir will be looking after all the questions which are appearing in the chat box. In this era of consumerism, we face lots of medical legal issues, and there is a rise in litigations at various forums. And to know about the acts, forums, and how to defend, we are having wonderful faculty with us at this webinar. It is my proud privilege to introduce such wonderful luminaries. Before I introduce our first speaker of today's webinar, I would like and I would request our Dr. Satish Tiwari Sarji to give his opening remarks. Dr. Satish Tiwari Sarji. Dr. Tiwari sir, can you hear us? Probably he's freezed, I think so. Dr. Sahani sir, can you do that part on his behalf? Dr. Sahani sir, please unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself. Yes, sir.
I welcome all on the behalf of Medical Legal Chapter of IAP on this program. It has been going on for last 3 days under the leadership of Dr. Gangolia, and so I think we should start now because already.
Thank you, Dr. Sahani sir. Our first speaker is Dr. Raja Kumar Meral from Bengaluru. This year, he is an executive board member of Central IAP Medical Legal Group of CIP. He is as well president of Medical Legal Group of IAP Karnataka, From 2010 to 2012, he was the chairman of the Child Welfare Committee, and from 2012 to 2018, he was a member of the PCPNDT Act Committee. Formerly, he was professor of pediatrics at the Institute and Research Institute at Davangere. He will be highlighting the effects and implications of the Consumer Protection Act 2019, which is passed just now with lots of amendments. What will be the implication of this new CPA 2019 on us? Dr. Rajakumar Marol will be speaking. And sir.
So at the outset, I would like to thank DIAP and President of Maharashtra IAP, Dr. Jayant Pandrikar sir, Secretary of Maharashtra IAP, Dr. Sadachar Ujalamkar sir, and our own Dr. Satish Tiwari sir, Dr. BB Sahni sir, and Hemant Gangulia sir for giving me this opportunity to speak on Consumer Protection Act. Consumer Protection Act, as all of you know, it was introduced in the year 1986 to address the grievance of consumers. Recently, it was amended, keeping in mind mainly new market dynamics like e-commerce transactions and misleading advertisements. New Consumer Protection Bill was passed in the month of August 2019 in the Parliament, and the new Consumer Protection Act came into effect from July 20th of this year. It has replaced almost most old act in total. One should understand that this act is not only for doctors, it is for all the professions and business where there is consumer and provider relationship exists. However, doctors are worried more than others. So let us know what is the impact of this act on medical profession. I am going to clarify most of your doubts during my talk. The common questions that arise out of this act are, most of the people ask whether it is included or not. Still they are in doubt. Does medical profession come under Consumer Act? What are the disadvantages of CPA? Can we offer to ours this law any further? What are the key changes in new act? Who can file a complaint? When a consumer can file a complaint? What is the fees for filing complaint? What happens when a complaint is filed? And if you don't obey the orders, what is the result? Coming to the first question, whether medical profession come under Consumer Act or not. Let us start with recently this has created more confusion, especially following new act of 2019. If one tries to rationalize his personal belief and logic to substantiate doctors are out of CPA by searching for some points in the act, he will get those points. However, if you start looking in the perspective of a lawyer for the inclusion of doctors, you will find many more clues. Let us know what are those points in favor and against the inclusion. Okay. Let us know who is a consumer according to this Consumer Act. Who is a consumer and what is the meaning of service? Consumer is a person who buys any goods or avails or hires any service for consideration. Consideration means price. So any service given for a price to a person is a consumer. What a service means? Service is of any description which is made available to the potential users and includes but not limited to the provisions of the facilities in connection with so many service providers they have mentioned, but there is no this term called healthcare service or doctor. So most of the people are thinking that healthcare service is not included. However, if you look at here, service of any description and but not limited to. So these two things are sufficient to include medical profession under this act. However, in the initial bill, it was included, but because of the protest by IMA and medical fraternity, that healthcare service was dropped. It was just a mechanical this thing adjustment rather than exclusion criteria, just to pass the bill smoothly in the parliament. So who are not included in this act? It does not include rendering any service free of charge or under a contract of personal nature. So most of us are not giving any free service. So we are definitely included in this act. However, let us know about one more important precedent passed by the Supreme Court. Even though SWIPA was introduced in the year 1986, medical services were excluded from the Consumer Protection Act until 1995, as they were treated as personal services. However, IMA went suo motu to Supreme Court in this case to decide whether patient is a consumer or not. IMA argued that including medical profession under the ambit of CPA is in violation of Article 14 and 19 of the Constitution. Medical services cannot be compared to household appliances. Medical services are personal in nature and not the type offered by manufacturer of consumer products, and it will lead to defensive medical practice. However, court said that doctors are not above law. Doctors are accountable for their actions. Medical councils cannot give compensations, and speedy justice is not possible by civil courts. So, Supreme Court defined the relationship between patients and medical professionals as contractual. The court held that even though service rendered by medical practitioners are of personal nature, they cannot be treated as contracts of personal service. They are contracts of service under which a doctor can be sued in Consumer Protection Court. Thus, the doctors were legally included in the CPA. Actually, in the year 1979, there were only 3 cases against doctors. According to one survey, following this VP Shanta case, there were a rise of almost 2,300 cases against doctors in the consumer forum. So can we offer to ours this law any further? Let us know what are the disadvantages of COPRA before answering that question. It will lead to definitely harassment of doctors, leading to corruption. Doctors will practice defensive medicine. Patients will be loser as doctors will not attend the patients even with slightly complicated ailments. Consumer commissions consist of non-medical persons who cannot appreciate the complex issues in medical care, and definitely healthcare costs will increase. And some people are still thinking that whether we can go for appeal. Yes, definitely you can go for appeal, but you should not go like as in the case of PP Shanta case. We can file a writ petition in the Supreme Court or High Court, but it is a remote possibility, as already Supreme Court has said that doctors are included in the Consumer Protection Act. However, we can ask them to include medico-legal person in consumer redressal commissions and provisions for huge penalty and imprisonment towards false complaints. So we cannot refuse or oppose this law. As all of you know, medical service has changed dramatically from service to profession to business. The roots of litigation against doctor is due to loss of trust and changed face of doctor-patient relationship. So only solution is restoration of trust is the only solution. Let us move on to what are the key changes in the new act. Yeah, as all of you know, it is a 3-tier system at district level, at state level, and at national level. Previously, there were consumer commissions and councils were there at all the levels. However, a new provision is provided in the new act, that is Central Consumer Protection Authority. And in district consumer forum is called as now it is commission, and a mediation cell is attached to that commission at all the levels. This let us know this about this Central Consumer Protection Authority. It has got the highest authority as far as this CPA is concerned. It has got executive body which is led by Chief Commissioner and a separate investigation wing led by Director General. It can file complaints suo motu and take actions, and it will regulate price, advertisements, and quality of products. Let us move on to another important provision in the new act. It has almost simplified the dispute resolution process. It is almost it has become this consumer friendly. Even a consumer can file the complaint through e-filing, and he can file a complaint from place of residence or his work. Previously, he should have filed it through written complaint only, and from where the service he had received, he should have filed it. And there is also provision for video conferencing for hearing. And there is a provision for deemed as administrative. If a commission cannot decide whether the complaint should be admitted or not, it deemed to be admitted after 21 days of the receiving the complaint. And these state and district commissions have been empowered to review their own orders. If there is any false or any technical this thing is there, or if opposite party goes for an appeal, then it can review its own orders. And appeals to National Commission is only on question of law. And another important thing is, as I said before, mediation cell. It is dispute resolution is made through mediation. Mediation cells are attached to consumer commissions. A panel of mediators are selected by the consumer commissions. And wherever there is scope for early settlement and both parties agree for it, the commission will refer it to the mediation cell. And mediation cell has got a statutory status, and there will not be appeal against settlement through mediation. However, medical negligence cases leading to grievous injury or death are not referred to mediation cell. Another important thing is the most important pecuniary jurisdiction. Previously, district commission it used to cover up to 20 lakh, state commission 20 to 1 crore, and more than 1 crore they used to go to national commission. However, it has increased drastically. District commission up to 1 crore, state commission up to from 1 crore to 10 crore, and national commission more than 10 crore. However, the difference here is based on the value of the product or value of the service, he has to give the complaint, leaving apart the compensation part. And misleading advertisements will carry imprisonment and as well as a fine amount. And if a doctor is giving any advertisement, he will be put under a bar for 1 to 3 years as well as a fine. And the other important thing is product liability action. Manufacturers, service providers, and sellers are punished for delivering defective products. For us, in medical persons, it is applicable for prostheses, devices, and implants. So naturally, to produce good quality products, the cost will increase, so that cost of treatment will increase, and the cost of litigation, this liability will also increase, and the indemnity policies we have to take costly indemnity policies. So these are the important differences. Few I have already covered. The other issues are, if you fail to issue bill or receipt, or if you disclose the personal data of the patient, you are punishable. And previously, a member from legal background used to be there in the at all the levels. However, now it is not necessary. And if you want to go for appeal, previously it was before 30 days you should have gone with the payment of maximum of 25,000 rupees. Now it is increased to 45 days, and the most important thing is 50% of the fine amount you have to pay before going for the appeal. So when a complaint can be filed, who can file a complaint, and what are the fees? Whenever a consumer's rights are violated, a consumer can file a complaint. What are his this thing rights? Right to safety against the services which are hazardous to life, right to be informed about the nature and price of the service, right to be educated about the knowledge of disease, right to be heard for his grievance at appropriate forums, right to be redressed in the form of compensation, right to choose service on his choice. And usually complaint has to be filed before 2 years. However, in pediatric cases, the limitation period may be extended to child's ability to take his own decision. Who can file a complaint? Any consumer or registered consumer association, parents in case of minor, and legal guardian in case of death can file a complaint, or one or more consumers who have got the same interest, who have suffered from the same aspect, they can file a class suit, and central government or state government or consumer authority can file a case suo motu on their own. And the another important thing difference in new act is fees. There is almost nil fees up to 5 lakh. So most of us won't charge more than 5 lakh, even including corporate hospitals. So it is very easy to file a complaint against doctor. And if he goes to state commission, it is just rupees 5,000 rupees, and at national commission, it is just rupees 7,500. What is the procedure on admission of complaint? As most of the doctors' hospitals do not charge much, majority of the cases will be landed in district commission. District commission is a quasi-judicial body having powers of judicial magistrate of first class. Any proceedings before commission is judicial proceeding, and the district commission is deemed as civil court. So let us see what happens when a case is filed. During first 21 days, the commission has to decide whether the complaint is admissible or not. If it is admissible, it will, if it can be solved through, if it feels like it can be solved through mediation cell, it will refer it to the mediation cell. Otherwise, it will ask the opposite party to reply. If opposite party does not agree with the complaint, the case will proceed. During next 30 days, it will place, it will give its order. Order can be in the form of, it can dismiss the complaint, and it can ask the opposite party to compensate the complainant by paying back the fees charged or costs, and it can ask the opposite party to remove deficiencies in services by repeating surgeries or any treatment, or it can award compensation. The total time taken for disposal is usually 3 months. However, when the court needs some sort of investigation or further documents or anything, it can be extended to 5 months. And for non-compliance of order, property of such person can be attached, and imprisonment of 1 month to 3 years, or a fine of 25,000 to 1 lakh can be put. So, okay, thank you. I hope I cleared most of your doubts. If any questions are there, I am happy to answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will take the questions in our afterwards. All the presentation very nicely presented by Dr. Rajakumar Sarji, and to cover all this in such a good slides is almost excellent. Sir, can you stop sharing your slides, please?
Okay.
Our next speaker is a cool personality with clear thoughts, an active social pediatrician with lots of talks on health educations and various interviews with eminent doctors on the important medical issues across the timeline. He's a senior pediatrician, and last year he was the organizing chairman of our fabulous state conference of Maharashtra State Mahapedicon 2019. He is Dr. Satish Agarwal Sarji from Amravati. He will be talking on the options which are available besides the Consumer Protection Act. Let us hear from you, Dr. Agarwal, sir. Sir, please share a presentation. Yes, sir.
Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I should thank Dr. Hemant Gangulia, sir, who himself is such a sweet person for such sweet words for me. At the outset, I thank Central IP President Dr. Bakul Parikh, sir, Secretary Dr. Baswaraja, sir, IP President Dr. Jay Pandikar, sir, Secretary Dr. Sadaja, sir, eminent moderators over here, Dr. Gangulia, sir himself, the senior moderator, Dr. Sani, sir, who is President of Medical Wing Chapter of IIT, and ever enthusiastic, ever encouraging Dr. Satish Tiwari, sir, along with my eminent panelist friends. Good evening to all. So I'll be just discussing in short about options other than CPA. So any of the individual or patient, if he has to go apart from CPA, what are the other options? Now we know that all the individuals, they have got a right to live in the society and the state. And then it becomes the duty of the state to protect those rights. And for this social structure, certain laws are made and legal remedies are formed to protect those rights. Now, health has been regarded as human right, not only at national but international level. So it becomes the duty of the state to safeguard those rights. Now, how are the laws made? They are made at two levels. Statutory laws in the parliament, they enact the laws as the parliamentarians are known as the lawmakers, and case laws by the Supreme Court. The decisions of the Supreme Court, they are binding to the law courts. Apart from CPA, which Dr. Rajkumar sir has elaborated in detail, what are the other options? Now, the individual will go for civil or criminal jurisdiction or to respective medical council at national or state level, or Human Rights Commission at national or respective state level. We all know and experience the mob justice wherein a mob of people, they gather at the hospital, vandalize the hospital properties, in terms of treating physician or pediatrician, physically or psychologically. And obviously the media trial wherein if any mishap happens at the hospital, the doctor is labeled as a killer doctor, or if he asks or demands a bill, then he becomes a lutera. Now, what about the civil suit? Civil jurisdiction is wherein a person may file a suit for compensation. Now, according to Section 70, there is a contract between a doctor and the patient, so both become parties. Now, this contract may be oral, written, or implied. So, any of the party breaches the contract, he or she is liable to be sued. Now, if a patient feels that he has not been provided appropriate and correct treatment, doctor may be sued. Now, can we sue the patient on the other hand? Yes. If suppose we feel that he has not paid the bills, he may be sued. But the point of view stays over here, we need to collect the fees either in advance or repeatedly during his hospital stay. After his discharge, we can't withhold him in a hospital premises on the pretext that he has not paid the bill, otherwise it becomes unlawful. Now, for filing this complaint, the litigant has to deposit certain amount of fee, and then the hearing occurs, and we all know it's very time consuming, cumbersome for both the parties, doctor as well as the patient, and becomes expensive. Now, the other jurisdiction is criminal laws. So, we all know for running the society smoothly, the government has to form the legal machinery and respective agencies. And government has to punish the wrongdoer. So, are we immune from such laws? No. As Dr. Rajkumar said, the doctor is not above the laws. Fortunately, most of the times, we people, the police and the criminal laws, they don't come into picture, as it is presumed that the doctor-patient relationship is based on faith, and our intentions to treat the patient are good with due consent from the patient. But if the doctor is involved in reckless and gross negligent treatment, resulting either in death or serious injury, he is liable to be sued. This was called as the res ipsa loquitur, meaning thereby the evidence themselves speak. Like if the person has been subjected to surgery, he has been operated upon the wrong leg, or the CT scan was of the other patient and the other some other patient was operated upon. Obviously, it becomes gross negligence. But to prove his offense or the guilt. Law presumes that every individual is innocent unless and until that guilt is proved. And who will prove the guilt? The onus lies on the litigant. Now, there are certain terminologies relating to criminal laws. Warrant case, we all know warrant is a document issued by competent authorities to arrest the doctor or to seize his property. Now, what is a warrant case? Warrant case amounts to the cases punishable with life imprisonment, death penalty, or imprisonment of more than 2 years. And cognizable cases are those cases where a police officer may arrest a doctor even without a warrant, according to Schedule 1 of IPC. So, what is the procedure of criminal proceedings? After the case is filed, the honorary court decides the gravity and merit of the case and seeks the expert opinion. Now, the experts usually they are from the government facilities of the same field and having an unbiased opinion. After they approve that the case may be filed, it is allowed for hearing and sufficient time is given for the accused for legal and other consultation. Many go here where if suppose this time is given, one should get prepared with all the necessary documents and evidence required for his prediction. There is a list of laws pertaining to medical practice. Only one thing I would like to stress upon is 304. We know that medical practice is unpredictable and death is a very fortunate and unpredictable outcome or any serious injury. So if the death of the patient occurs at the hospital, the person may be accused of homicide and is arrested under 304. But the court has said the doctor should not be liable for 304. On the contrary, it should be 304A. Because if the intentions are good and this mission occurs, then the this thing should be 304A because it is bailable offense. So bail is awarded to the doctor and he may be released on bail. Now, in case if suppose 304 is applied, doctor has got the bail, and even after getting the bail, if the police officer keeps him in the premises, then it becomes unlawful confinement, and police officer is responsible for that. So 340 to 342 section, it pertains to wrongful confinement, where it is stating if the patient has not paid the bill and we go through the patient in the hospital premises, it becomes unlawful and may be sued under this act. So same thing is applied with the police officer. If he confines the doctor over there unlawfully, he is liable to be sued, although it is very difficult. Now the next option is medical council. Indian Medical Council and their respective state medical councils. The main purpose of these councils are to regulate the medical curriculum and recognition of the medical colleges. Simultaneously, they regulate the medical ethics of the registered medical practitioner. So, if somebody finds that the doctor is indulged in unethical practice, one may complain to the medical council. And now there is a facility addressed in Maharashtra Medical Council where the complaint may be made online. After receiving the complaint, the council makes a thorough inquiry, and if the person is found guilty, his or her registration may either be suspended for a certain period or may be cancelled. Such action is notified to the respective association or organization of the doctor and made a public notice. And if the suspension was temporary, so after the revocation of the suspension, after it is over, same thing is conveyed to the respective councils or associations and a public notice is made. Now, Indian Medical Council, there are 8 chapters related to medical ethics, and there are at least 42 subtitles related to ethical acts. Now, in this chapter 6 about unethical acts, there are 8 subtitles, of which I chosen only 4. Advertising, as Dr. Rajakumar was saying, advertising in any form is not allowed and supposed to be unethical practice, barring a few exceptions like while starting the practice or changing the nature of the practice or while reducing the fees, etc. Rebate or commission, like any kind of favor, either in physical means or in money form or travel expenses, given by any individual, pharmaceutical companies or anybody else, is unethical. Secret remedies, the treatment administered by a registered medical practitioner, the contents of which are not known, the manufacturers are known, becomes unethical. So we are all supposed to administer only those medicines, the manufacturer of whom is known, or the contents are well known. Obviously, human rights, the rights are to be respected and protected. So next comes the Human Rights Commission. They act at both national and respective state level. Health is a human right recognized internationally, so they are to be respected and protected. So if anybody finds unlawful activities, one may complain to the respective Human Rights Commission. But we are a bit fortunate because such issues are usually of wider perspective and are of national or state level interest. So individual level, probably such complaints may not be lodged. So friends, what should we do not to get indulged under such complaints? So we keep on saying, if prevention is always better than cure. Do ethical practice. Now the condition, if we get indulged in ethical practice, we may not earn sufficiently. As Dr. Satish Tiwari sir keeps on saying, if you do ethical practice, we are worshipping goddess Saraswati or Vidya, and we are practical before earning money, probably we are followers of goddess Lakshmi. So probably they are both extreme ends. But there is a balanced view wherein by maintaining ethical values, we may earn a decent living. So we need to keep our ethics intact. Comply with the notice. In case if a complaint is lodged and notice is issued by competent authorities, we should not neglect such notice. We should preserve the notice and answer the notice within stipulated time. And when notice is answered, copy of which should be preserved with us. The receiver has to put the signature, designation. If suppose police officer or constable is there, his button number, time, and date is to be noted. Documentation, like the thing, the notice says and its reply. Apart from the documents pertaining to the case and the patient, they are to well maintained and preserved. Now the contention, like we don't have any practice of documents, or if the complaint is lodged and investigating officers coming to the clinic, we can't escape saying that we don't have the documents. Even if one doesn't have the document, one has to produce the document. In case, suppose the mishap has occurred and the police officer comes immediately, we can borrow some time. But sometime means it doesn't mean 2 days or weeks. And such documents, they are to be prepared very meticulously without leaving any loophole. Needless to say about the art of communication, because most of the litigations they occur because either of lack of communication, or miscommunication. So communication at the patient level, at the relative level, and most important, at the level of the investigator officer is important. He, being an authority, should be given due respect. So we receive the notice, and obviously one rushes to the advocate. So legal aid is to be sought. The point of the space over here, the advocates most of the times may not be aware of the medical terminology. So one needs to sit with the advocate, needs to provide appropriate meaning and evidence to support our case. Simultaneously, one should not get indulged providing unnecessary details of the other. So to avoid such things, obviously the medical aid is the best one. And whenever one is called for hearing or one is called for any notice, one should always be personally present. At last, for such litigation, such cases, rapid action groups are to be formed. What does it mean? It comprises of the group of senior and the enthusiastic junior group. If possible, we should include the competent police officers or the journalists. So in case of pressure, the group rushes over there, tries to defuse the situation. We have at Amravati formed this group. We have made a WhatsApp group, and the strict rule is that nobody put any good morning, good night, or condolence or motivational messages over there. Moment one sees the message, the members rush over there and they defuse the situation. And believe me, most of the times we are fortunate enough to avoid such litigations. Lastly, I put my thanks for the question listening. Thank you. Sir, unmute. Gangulia sir, unmute.
Sir, unmute yourself. Gangulia sir, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal sir, for the presentation, but your sound for last few minutes we are not able to hear it properly. Can you quote that in the last message what you said was put on your WhatsApp group?
Sure, sir, sure.
Yes.
Sir, I'll repeat the same thing. For avoiding such problems, one should form the rapid action groups. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
ठीक है.
Meaning thereby it comprises of the group of the senior persons and the junior enthusiastic person. If possible, we should include a competent police officer and a journalist. So, moment any of the mishap occurs at any of the clinic or the hospital, the group is notified and the people rush over there. And I quoted the example of our city, Amravati. We have formed this group, a WhatsApp group, and it is exclusively meant for this rapid action force. Meaning thereby, the rule is none of the messages like good morning, good evening, motivational condolence messages are put on the group. A single message, if indicated, means any mishap has occurred in the nearby hospital or clinic and the people rush over there. And because of the formation of this group, we are fortunate enough to avoid most of the problems at our own level.
Dr.
I
Satish,
hope, yeah.
even the messages of some meeting or webinars are not allowed on that group.
Nothing.
Yeah, sure, sir, sure.
Yeah, it's only the message related to some problem in the hospital. Messages of a webinar, conference are not allowed on that group.
Thank
Sure,
you.
sir.
very
The
much.
moment we get message on this group, that means there's something wrong at some hospital, and we just open the message, then we have to rush there. This is the thing we have decided.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for that. Our next speaker is Secretary of IAP Medical Legal Chapter, member of Editorial Board of Journal of Indian Medical Legal and Ethics Association, Dr. J.K. Gupta, sir, from Kanpur. He is the president of NNF Kanpur branch. He was treasurer and executive member of UP IAP state. He was vice president, secretary of IAP Kanpur city branch. He is a convener of Medical Legal Cell IMA Kanpur branch. He is a president of Medical Cell Civil Bar Association. He was awarded with Appreciation Award from IMA Kanpur for preparing a dossier which was submitted to UP state government on UP Protection Act, and he will be talking on what precautions we should take as all regarding our professional assistance scheme, what insurances, what type of the things we should take care of if all the litigations as respect to any mishaps occurs and it goes through. With that, I ask Dr. J.K. Gupta, sir, please share your experiences and share your presentation. Dr. Gupta, sir, is, yes. Please share your presentation, Dr. Gupta, sir.
Make it slideshow.
Slideshow karo. Dr. Gupta, yes.
Slideshow,
now-
click.
Slideshow.
Down besides the animations.
So just press F5, the functional key.
Done.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Am I audible? Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Thanks, Heman, sir. Thanks, Tiwari, sir. Thanks, Maharashtra IAP. And thanks to all seniors for giving me this opportunity to be in faculty with you. Sir, in this talk, I would like to cover three core issues. What is the professional indemnity? What is professional assistance scheme? and what precautions should we take while opting a policy. So first of all, what is indemnity? So as per section 124 Indian Contract Act 1872, indemnity is a contract by which one party promises to save the other from the loss caused by conduct of promiser himself or by conduct of any other person. So this is a definition of indemnity. So we are taking professional indemnity from so many companies, but we are not aware about the rights of the indemnity holder. So what are the rights of indemnity holder? So as per section 125, indemnity holder in a contract of indemnity is entitled to recover from the promiser three things: all the damages which he may be compelled to pay in any suit, all costs which he may be compelled to pay in any suits if in bringing or defending it, and the third one is all sums which he may have paid under the terms of any compromise of any suit. So any compromise is also covered in indemnity as per definition of section 125, 124 and 125. So while discussing compromise, there are three preconditions. First is if the compromise was not contrary to indemnifier. Second one, it was one which it would have been prudent for the promisee to make it in the absence of any contract of indemnity. And third one is if the promiser authorized him to compromise the suit. So before taking any policy, we should notice whether compromise condition is there or not. So next question is, why is indemnity insurance important? You may say that there is no limit on what compensation can be asked for. And many times interest on compensation may be more than on demanded compensation. And recently, as Dr. Morol has detailed that there is a revised pecuniary jurisdiction in CPA 2019. So if you can pay compensation of 11.6 crore from your pocket, you don't need to have indemnity insurance. So quantum of compensation, if we study, it was very less initially. In 1993, V. Chandrasekhar versus Messrs. Apollo Hospital, it was around 19 lakhs. And in Spring Meadow Hospital versus Arjut Ahluwalia, it was around 17.5 lakhs. In Prashant S. Dhanaka versus Nizam Institute, it was 15.75 lakhs. So until 2009, it was not much. But a huge change was witnessed in 2013 when in case Dr. Balram Prasad versus Dr. Kunal Saha, a compensation of 6.08 crore were awarded with 6% per annum rate of interest. So it total amount was 11.6 crore. So this was a huge change in the history of compensation. And since then, a trickling down effect has been observed because this case of 2013 has set a higher standard for the compensation. And since then, we can see in 2019, Maharaja Agrasin Hospital, 76 lakh compensation was awarded. Papia Banerjee versus Apex Institute, 73 lakhs. Abhishek Ahluwalia versus Sanjay Saluja, 80 lakhs. Dr. Indu Sharma versus Apollo Hospital, 1.10 crore. V. Krishna Kumar versus State of Tamil Nadu, 1 crore 73 lakh. So it was huge change after 2013. And a criminal code was not very behind. In this case, Dr. Nelson Jasdan versus State in 2018, Session Court Trichy enhanced the compensation up to 9.85 crore. So huge compensation has been awarded in last so many years. So it is very mandatory to all of us to have indemnity policy. Sir Morol has already specified about the pecuniary jurisdiction. Pecuniary jurisdiction has been drastically changed in 2019. District forum up to 1 crore, state commission 1 to 10 crore, and national commission more than 10 crore. And there is a change in the language in which it is said that where the value of goods or services paid as a consideration, word compensation claimed is missing. So any case as per 2019 CPA is going to be filed, because there will be no case in which more than 1 crore expenses will be there. So every case as per this definition will be filed in district forum. And more so, sir is already told that no appeal unless 50% of the award deposited. So you may say that right to appeal has been snatched in CPA 2019. First, you should deposit 50%, then you can appeal, make an appeal from district to state or state to national or national to Supreme Court. So next question is how much amount one should opt for. There is a well-known saying that medical insurance is like a hospital gown. Only you think you are covered, and everything is uncovered, which you can't see. So it depends on the 4 issues. First is jurisdiction. In which place you are residing or you are working, it is deciding factor. If you are practicing in a district in which district forum is there, so chances of compensation is less. But if you are in city, you are in any city where state forum, your national forum is situated, then you may face a case of higher compensation. Second is which branch or which specialty you are practicing. What is the place of practice? You are in town or you are in metro, and which type of services you are providing. You are seeing only OPD, serious patient, indoor patient, or ICU. So these are the determining factors which tells that how much amount one should opt for. So this is general outline. How much should I be insured for? So for general physician, 50 lakhs, specialist physician, 1 crore, surgeon, 2 crore, anesthetic, 2 crore, plastic surgeon, 2 crore, hospital error and omission policy, minimum 1 crore. So it is a general outline drawn. Next question is, should government doctor also take indemnity insurance? Yes, definitely. Government doctor, there are a number of cases. In this case, Umakant Mane versus Dean Rajavati Municipal Hospital, 2015, it was held that compensation awarded by way of public law remedy need not only be nominal palliative amount, but something more. So it was mentioned in the judgment. And a reference was also made of the case of Supreme Court in Subir Singh versus State of Haryana. Award of compensation by way of public law remedy will not come in the way of the aggrieved person claiming additional compensation in a civil court. So in this case, 10 lakhs were awarded with 9% interest for total 13 years. In the case V. Krishna Kumar versus State of Tamil Nadu and others, Supreme Court 2015, compensation was awarded against the government doctor. So message is very pretty clear that time has come when high compensation claims will also be awarded against government hospitals. And there are other form of compensation which government doctor may face, that under Article 32, violation of fundamental right, compensation under law of tort, and criminal prosecution under Section 357 CRPC. Similarly, ESI hospitals are also covered under CPA. It was mentioned in Supreme Court of India judgment, Kisori Lal versus Chairman. So ESI is well covered, and cases has been filed against resident doctors and interns also. So every doctor who has completed his MBBS is liable for compensation or consumer forum case. What are the problems associated with indemnity insurance? Problem of indemnity insurance is many times there is a no indemnity insurance, and sometimes only personal indemnity insurance there, sometimes only hospital error and omission policy, in wrong ratio, AOI versus AOA, inadequate insurance. So you can say doctors are frequently underinsured, incompletely insured, fraudulently insured, unknowingly insured, and uninsured. So next question is which policy we should opt, error or omission policy versus professional indemnity policy. So in this case, State Commission Oriental Insurance Company versus Rajwinder Kaur. In this case, there was a small hospital, Preet Hospital, which was run by consultant Dr. Amarveer Singh, and who are not insured, and hospital was not having error and omission policy. So in this case, insurance company denied Am I audible?
Now. You are
Am I
lost in
audible?
between. Now audible. You are audible now.
Dr. Barwal, I can see you.
You are audible now.
Now you're audible, sir. You can speak now. Please continue.
Go ahead.
Should I continue? Okay.
Share your slides.
So message is pretty clear that
You share your slides.
Once again, share your slide, sir.
Dr. Gupta, your
Sir, please
slides
share
are
your slide.
slide share करिए.
sir, it is already saying, sir, there is a net issue. Sir, my slide is visible. Am I audible, sir?
Slides are not.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Slides are not seen.
Should I continue, sir?
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. Now it has come.
Pongale sir, you are muted.
From current slide.
Okay, sir. So in this case,
Dr. Gupta, sir, which slide you want? This one? This one?
Sir, I'm on. You are audible to me, but
Yeah.
am I audible to you?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
yes.
audible. You're audible. Continue. This slide is okay. From here is okay.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. You just tell me next, huh, sir?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Go to previous slide. Yes, now.
Yes, sir.
This is okay.
Yes, sir. So in this case, Dr. Amarveer Singh has taken indemnity insurance, but patient was treated by other doctor who was not insured, and hospital was also not insured. So insurance company denied to pay the compensation award. So message is that take policy for the all doctors and hospitals separately, and take personal professional indemnity insurance as well as error and omission policy, not the single one. In this case, National Commission Oriental Insurance versus Jagruk Nagrik and others. In this case, 6 policies were taken by the hospital in the name of doctors, but allegation was not against the doctor. Allegation was against the hospital because there was a camp of eye surgeries and the case was put against the hospital. So in this case, a compensation was awarded against the doctor, against the hospital, not the doctors, and insurance company denied. So message is clear that insurance should be in the name of hospital as well as in the name of doctors. Another question is, what is AOI ratio, AOI and AOA ratio? So AOI refers to any 1 year of the insurance policy, and AOA refers to any one incident covered in that particular year. So AOI and AOA ratio determines the maximum liability that an insurance company will compensate in a professional indemnity claim. So if you have 1:1 ratio, then any one case you may claim in that year, and if it is 1:2, then 2 cases you may cover, and the policy amount will be divided in 2. So in this case, Santok Nursing Home versus New India Insurance Company Limited, State Commission, Chandigarh. In this case, swab left in the abdomen, operated later now operated multiple times in PGI. And in this case, 12 lakhs were awarded by State Commission, and case went to National Commission, and it was reduced to 8 lakhs. But insurance policy was of 1:4 ratio. So National Commission held that insurance company was entitled to pay only 5 lakhs, despite of the being insurance of 20 lakhs. So a message is that doctor needs only AOI and AOA ratio 1:1. Is there any need of taking insurance for unqualified staff? Yes. Cases has been filed against the staff also. There is a case Suresh Chandra versus Dr. Kailash Kabra and others at National Commission 2014. In this case, case was filed against the Dr. Kabra and his staff by name Salim Khan, compounder, Gopal Naik, technician, and others. So since the name of the compounder and technician was included in the policy, so insurance company was entitled to pay the commission, pay the compensation. So message is pay 7.5% extra premium to cover unqualified attendants and mention the name of attendant in proposal form also. So what precautions should be observed in indemnity policy? In this case, New India Insurance Company Limited versus K. Parvati Kutti, Kerala State Commission 2011. In this case, doctor was insured and he operated in other clinic, cataract operation. But he was insured for performing surgery in his own clinic. So court rejected claim. So we should take care that in filling the proposal form, we should enter name of all hospitals, clinics, and places where we visit and treat the patient. National Commission versus National Commission, National Insurance versus Kanapati State Commission, Andhra Pradesh. In this case, notification of the claim was made after 90 days. So there was a notification period to insurance company, and on this ground, insurance company denied the compensation, and it was held right. So it is a message from all that notification to the company should be made in due time, and one should read terms and conditions carefully before opting any policy. In this case, Dr. Tarunjati Datta Roy versus New India Insurance NCDRC. In this case, a doctor was insured for 10 lakhs in 1999, but case was filed in district forum, compensation awarded. It appealed, he appealed in state commission, but insurance company was not at all informed, and compensation of 2.67 lakhs awarded. insurance company denied for insurance because the company was not informed and informed only after awarding the compensation. So one cannot involve company after compensation award. So professional assistant scheme is another thing. So professional assistant scheme is the indemnity insurance of the doctors, by the doctors, and for the doctors. In this case, only the fellow or life member of the IAP and Indian Medical Legal Ethical Association are involved. It assists the member by medical legal guidance, expert opinion, guidance of legal experts, support of crisis management committee, financial assistance as per terms of agreement and extent of indemnity. And as all the cases, all the indemnity insurance criminal cases are not covered in this also. So management of this scheme is by trust or committee of company or society. So it is not a company run by the other person other than medicals. And financial assistance will be like medical indemnity welfare scheme. Medical indemnity experts will be involved in this, and district, state, regional level committees will be established. Telephone helpline is there for the members, and other activities like CME and workshops for record keeping, consent, communication skills is discussed in professional assistant scheme. What is the admission fee? It is one time and non-refundable, and it is as per degree or diploma, 1,000 to 6,000. For individual doctor, it is a very less in comparison to other companies, indemnity companies. You may see that other company is offering 625 per 10 lakhs, but our professional insurance scheme, assistant scheme is offering 40%, 400. So it is a pretty less in comparison to other offers. And we may say that roughly 60% rebate is there in PS scheme. For hospital establishment, 300 rupees per lakh plus 1 rupees per OPD patient around the year and 5 rupees per IPD patient around the year. So this is the overall calculation, plus 18% GST plus 7.5% basic premium for unqualified staff. And exact calculation depends upon the OPD and IPD numbers given by the hospitals. At medical college and corporate hospitals, it will be provided after discussing with administration. And 5% concession on the payment for 3 years and 10% concession on the payment for 5 years on individual to individual basis. And there are certain other charges also, 1,000 rupees per year to develop the fund of Emilia towards emergency assistance, risk management, conducting trainings, CME workshops. And if a doctor has to visit other hospital, then 5% extra, and additional charges 15% for those with radioactive treatment. And additional charges can be included for the other benefits like OPD, indoor attendance, instruments, fire, and personal injuries. So what is the difference between professional indemnity, PAS, and Emilia membership? So professional indemnity mainly covers financial assistance only, as like other insurance companies, but PAS covers indemnity plus other benefits like medical legal guidance and expert opinion, etc. But Emilia is an academic organization. It gives insurance as well as organizing CME workshops, conferences, and publishes textbooks and journals also. Indian Medical Legal Ethics Association Emilia, the services offered are medical legal guidance in hour of crisis, expert opinion, service of legal experts, professional indemnity, and academic activities, and crisis management committees. So what one should do in defending consumer cases, one should take due cognizance of the case, attend personally by himself or lawyer, answer brief and clear, comprehensive, affidavits of colleagues. He should ask for experts witness, ask for counter compensation. He should give references, demand for cross-examination, and he should explain the misunderstandings and misrepresentation in his written statement. And what are the don'ts? Don't ignore and or disrespect the court. Don't get panicky, frightened. Don't give unnecessary details. Don't be volunteered to hand over the documents unless demanded. So what is the take-home message? A take-home message is get professional indemnity insurance even if you are in government job, PG, intern, or retired. Or if you have, you may have, if you are retired and you have to see your housemate also free of cost. So everybody should get a minimum professional indemnity insurance of 1 crore is recommended for all in present scenario. AOY and AO ratio should be 1:1. And if there is any mishap and you may think that a case may be there, so you may take another policy for that year. And take professional indemnity policy only after understanding terms and conditions thoroughly. And last is it is better to take
Dr. Gupta, sir, you are there?
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please conclude. Please conclude.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My talk is completed, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Last but not the least,
There was last minute issue actually.
yes, sir. Last but not the least, our last speaker is Dr. Rajesh Boop from Amravati. He is a national treasurer of Medical Legal Group of IAP, as well as he is a vice president of Maharashtra State MAHAAP, and he played an important role in organization of the MahaPedicon 2019 State Conference of Maharashtra State at Amravati. He will be talking on fire safety. So he is not having his presentation, but he will be talking to us on fire safety. Yes, Dr. Rajesh Boop, sir.
Thank you, Hemanji. Am I audible?
Yes, very clear, very clear. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Topic is very vast, and I will be just touching few salient features which are important. Rest of the statistics, exact financial implications, they're all in the code itself. I will be touching only salient features. National Building Code specifies construction, occupancy, and protective features that are necessary to minimize danger to life and property from fire. Fire safety is important for everybody, every individual and every building, but hospital has got a special situation because in an individual building, one is supposed to take care of himself, but once the patient is admitted in the hospital, it is the responsibility, legal responsibility of the owner to take care of its inmates. Second important fact is that the inmates are usually sick and they are probably not able to run or move away from their bed in case of fire. So the situation is different. Thirdly, once injured due to fire, the morbidity and mortality is definitely high because they are already ill and few of them may be terminally ill. So for that point also, we are at a significant danger. Last thing, in hospital, we have oxygen, nitrous cylinder, various types of cleaning material. We are usually flammable. We have got curtain material, beds, bed sheets, laundry, and at many rooms we have got gas connections also. So these are potential sources for fire catching, and if the fire catches, it can move at a very rapid speed. We have got an example of Embry Hospital, Calcutta, 2011, where 91 deaths had occurred. After that, Bhubaneswar, there was casualty. And in recently, at COVID-19 Center, Ahmedabad, there was casualty mishap due to fire and 11 people had died. So we cannot take it lightly. There are variations in state to state as far as fire safety acts are concerned. I will be mainly concentrating on the Maharashtra state. Maharashtra Fire Prevention and Life Safety Measures Act 2006 was implemented in 2008. The buildings, the hospitals which were constructed prior to implementation of Act are beyond the purview of this Act, and all the buildings which were constructed after the Act was implemented, they are under purview of this Act. It doesn't mean that buildings before 2008 should not follow fire norms, but the government or fire authorities will appeal to us to follow the norms as much as possible for safety of ourselves and as well as inmates, but it is mandatory, legally compulsion on all the buildings constructed beyond 2008. While we are planning to build a hospital or rent a hospital building, we are applying to the respective authorities, and along with that, we are applying for fire also. The fire authorities will be inspecting our plan. They will do on-site visit of our building, and once our work is over, we will be getting building completion certificate or occupancy certificate. By law, if we get occupancy certificate, there are controversies whether really we need no objection certificate or fire audit periodically. There are contradictory judgments by high courts and contradictory circular by state of Maharashtra that once you are issued NOC, you need not apply for NOC every 3 years. And contradictory, it is the statements are there. You must renew the NOCs every 1 year. After we have got completion certificate, we are supposed to submit Form A. Form A will be provided by a fire license agency, and that will include that these equipments as per need of that particular hospital has been established, and that constitutes Form A. After Form A is submitted, every 6 months, you are supposed to undergo fire audit, and you will be receiving Form B that will be mentioning that all the equipments which has been put while establishing the building are working in good order. And this has to be done every 6 months, and it is responsibility of the building owner to follow the precautions. What happens if one person doesn't follow the recommended norms? The district fire officer or an equivalent officer, if he comes to notice that a particular hospital has got few objects or goods which are hazardous as far as fire safety is concerned, he has got all rights to detain the objects after giving a proper notice. He has got power of inspection. He can visit the hospital premises after giving notice of 3 hours, and the timings specified are any time between sunrise and sunset. If any inadequacy or non-compliance is being observed by the competent authority, he will give a specific time for making correction to the owner, and in spite of that, in that particular time, if the compliances are not made, he can seize the place, and the expenses which can occur while seizing the place and sealing the area has to be paid by the owner. He can remove the person who is occupying the premises and ask the concerned authorities to disconnect electricity or water supply from that building, and for that he can definitely take help of police to do that. If we come to see what are the main requirements for various hospital buildings to be followed, we will start with the simplest of building, and 90% of our hospitals probably belong to that area. We come under category of C1, a hospital building which is less than 15 meters in height. The height is calculated from an average ground level and to the uppermost terrace which is livable. It is calculated with that. Ground plus one floor and a plot area less than 1000 square meter with no bed. It must have a fire extinguishers. It must have hose reel. There is no need of dry riser or wet riser or downcomer, yard hydrant. Automatic sprinkler system will be needed if our basement area is more than 200 square meters. It must have manually operated electric fire alarm system. No need of automatic system. No need of underground static water storage tank. No need of terrace water tank. And a pump capacity obviously at ground level or at the top level will not be needed. This is for a building which is less than 15 meter, ground plus one, and plot area less than 1000 square meter with no bed. Remember, it is with no bed. As soon as the beds are added, what will change? The downcomer will come in picture apart from the previous all things. And we will be needing a terrace tank of capacity 5000 liters. Capacity will go to 10,000 if our basement area is more than 200 square meter. We will be needing a pump at top floor with capacity of 450 to 900 liters per minute and a specific pressure that is 0.3 N per meter square. If we come to above two floor with no bed, all the things which are mentioned previously, what will add? A wet riser will add, a yard hydrant will add, automatic operated automatic electric fire alarm system will come in picture. Okay. What will happen if there are more than two floors with beds? The downcomer will be removed because it will have additional features. We will be needing underground static water storage tank, a capacity of 50,000 liters. We will be needing a pump near the underground water tank, and the capacity of it will be 1620 liters per minute. When we move ahead to a building which is more than 15 meter, the building size of 15 meter to 30 meter, the specifications are same. What changes? Underground water tank of capacity 75,000 liters, the terrace tank of 10,000 liter, and underground storage tank pump of capacity 1800 liters per minute. It must have automatic sprinkler system. If the building size is 30 meter to 45 meter, the downcomer will come again in picture. The underground tank capacity will be 1.5 lakh. The terrace tank capacity will be 30,000, and the pump which is placed at underground level 2,400 liters per minute. And as we move ahead from 45 meter, for every additional 5 meter, we will be needing 5,000. We will have to add 5,000 liter for every 5 meter for underground tank capacity. We will have to add for every 5 meter 5,000 liters for terrace tank, and for the underground pump 1,000 liters per minute for every 5 meter will be added. If we have got time, sir, Hemanji, we can deal with specifications for high-rise building more than 15 meter, and otherwise my salient features are already over. Hemanji, you are muted, sir.
Please unmute yourself. Hemant sir.
Yes, yes. I was out of this. Wi-Fi is gone now. I am on hotspot. Airtel
Okay,
hotspot
okay.
पे है. So my Wi-Fi had gone.
Okay.
Please make all of you.
डॉक्टर राजेश,
जी सर.
हाँ.
इतना अच्छा बोलते और पहले बोलते और मेरे पास है नहीं कुछ मटेरियल.
नहीं, सही में नहीं था सर. नॉन एकेडमिक टॉपिक है. नॉन एकेडमिक टॉपिक के लिए बहुत करना पड़ता है. आप बाकी कोई टॉपिक बोलिए तो शायद कंफर्टेबल हो जाता है.
Over to
बाकी जो
Dr.
सर डाटा है, हेमंत जी.
We have only 10-15 minutes remaining. 10 minutes remaining.
Okay,
Please,
okay. We can.
over to Dr.
Okay.
Sani, Dr. Tiwari for
Okay,
any sub questions, any comments.
Sir, one
Dr.
question
Tiwari.
from my side.
Yes.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sure.
Yes, my question is suppose a patient complains for the same negligence case in a consumer court, in a civil court or criminal court. Can he complain going to all three courts one things? And suppose the punishment comes, then is doctor supposed to pay for all the three judgments?
Yes, doctors. Any faculty or Dr.
Anyone.
Tiwari sir would like to answer.
If Marol sir can try, otherwise we'll discuss then.
Dr. Barol sir?
Is he there?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
here.
he's there. He's there.
Yeah. Dr. Marol, can patient go to all the three at the same time? Okay, Dr. Jayant, as far as I know, the patient cannot go to 2 or 3 options at the same time, especially the judicial things. He can
Okay.
complain to a medical council and human rights commission at the time and in one of the courts, maybe consumer, civil or criminal. Basically, he cannot go to civil as well as criminal and consumer at the same time. There are some restrictions, and the other court may say that he has already gone, or we can take that defense that he has already gone to one court. So let the decision come from that court.
Sir,
Sir,
I have
one
I
minute.
have to say something, sir. Sir,
One minute.
criminal and consumer
yes.
proceedings can go side by side.
Yes.
And
Yes, हाँ बोलिए. Dr. Gupta sir commit करिए.
sir, criminal and other proceedings can go side by side.
What is said is right. At one time, because the consumer, the things are different, and criminal, one can go in at both times. But of course, one can put that defense that thing that this has been gone to this, so I should be this should not be taken up the case. But it's all totally depends on the discretion of the judge whether to accept that or not. But it's most of the time it doesn't work. At the same time, one has to face both consumer as well as criminal. And probably we have seen the cases pending in consumer as well as criminal as well as in state council for that matter. So these are at same
one
time.
question.
Supplement to this
But-
question.
One question from
Sir,
Dr. Satish.
Supplement to one question, this question only. Suppose,
Yes.
as per you, what you said that even he can go to both courts, say criminal as well as the civil. Suppose
Yes.
both courts ask for compensation. Can indemnity policy covers and pays for the compensation?
Yeah, indemnity
Satish, sir.
policy will give
Yes.
policy will give the compensation to the extent for which you have the indemnity. Whether the decision is by 2 courts or 3 courts, it doesn't matter. But total amount they will not exceed. So if there are 3 different judgment from 3 different courts, but the total amount will be taken into consideration.
But for the same negligent
what-
act, the company will pay for all the 3 courts.
If it comes in the total,
Okay.
it doesn't exceed the total. And one more thing I would like
Satish
to
sir, you want to say something?
The Dr. Jayant,
Yes, sir.
Usually, if the case is decided by one court, there is another legal principle
Hmm.
that if the case is decided once, they cannot go to other court or they cannot file for the same. So if one court grants compensation and that is paid, usually they cannot go to other court.
But
So
sir,
that's why I
got
said
one,
usually a patient cannot go to the 3 courts or 2 courts. He can go to the Medical Council and Human Rights Commission where they will not sanction they will not sanction any compensation. Their action is more of a academic nature.
Satish Agrawal, sir, what do you want to say?
Sir, just a simple comment. In case what Dr. Pandikar sir asked, in case if suppose a patient dies and the case is filed, both as criminal as well as for the civil suit. So usually the court says that unless and until it's a gross negligence, so it won't amount to criminal proceedings. Probably they may ask for the compensation. So getting civil suit done is relatively easier than getting criminal proceedings done. So what Tiwari sir said, probably a single suit may be applicable rather than all the 3. That is what I want to submit.
See, two decision cannot come for the same case. Means consumer court is also sanctioning compensation and civil court is also sanctioning compensation. That usually will not occur. And if it is occurring, you can take the objection that probably the other court have been misled by the consumer and he has not informed that he has filed at 2 places. So it is our responsibility to take the objection if a patient is filing at 2 different courts.
but I
Sir,
have
no
got
one, sir, no one goes to civil court despite consumer court because
Yes.
there is a lot of court fees. So for the compensation,
Why, sir?
only consumer or civil suit.
Dr. Gupta, I got your point.
Suit,
Dr. Raja Kumar, what you want to say regarding
yes.
this?
In case of class suits, one can file in one consumer court, another can go with civil or criminal court.
Criminal, yes.
Only in case of this class complaint. For the same complaint, 2 people can file in 2 different this thing.
What do you
They
mean by
can-
class complaint? What do you mean by class complaint?
If the more than one people is suffering from the same this thing complaint, he having
Yeah.
same complaint, because many people have undergone same surgery and they are suffering from same this thing side effect or this thing. One fellow can go to consumer court, another fellow can go to civil court, and another fellow can go to criminal court. And anywhere if that this thing result comes, it will be applied to all the people.
To summarize, most of them, they do not go to civil because of the fees are there. Secondly, medical council one can go, but at the same time, consumer and criminal, they can go. We have to put that in our defense that this thing happened, because I have seen practically that case, it happened. But then when the High Court case decision came, and when the decision was put on the consumer forum, but that party didn't turn up, that it went to the in party absentia the decision. But it can be gone into the 2 at the same time. It totally depends on the discretion of the judge. Let us go to any other questions. Otherwise, I will
Yes,
ask
one question from Dr. Satish Agrawal.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Boliye.
And you said about 304A on 5th of August when we were having this webinar, the advocate Dr. Arun Mishra said, Mr. Arun Mishra advocate said that section 304 is itself, not 304A. Section 304 is becoming more and more difficult for the doctors, because when somebody comes with section 304, that becomes more
Unbelievable.
Obviously, sir.
Anyone
because-
want to answer that? Anyone wants to answer that, or we will summarize it?
Sir,
Dr.
304,
Ani sir, we have to take objection that doctors are not under 304. That is the basic first step which you have to take if somebody is applying 304 against the doctors.
and most of the time, the police officers, they may not be aware of this thing. 304 is not.
He said the language is just
They
a
may
minute.
be aware, but just to harass the doctors, they may apply 304.
No, sir.
Sir, Dr. Arun, as Mr. He was saying that the language that if the act is done with the knowledge that it is likely to cause death, can cause death, but without any intention to cause death.
Dr. Sani sir, I got the point. I will explain you this. In the Pune case, where the injection diclofenac was given, the severe reaction occurred, 304 was applied. And how they interpreted, because they said, because you are knowing that injection can cause the reaction, then why you have given? Therefore, you are having the knowledge. And when you are having the knowledge, therefore that 304 applied. But then was it pleaded in the court of the law when the every advocate argued for that, whether it was under knowledge, but it is a known combination of that drug. So it was made from 304 to 304A. The problem is that how the police station, how the police legal people, they interpret the sequence of the event. If they feel that there is a knowledge of the thing, then they put 304. Otherwise, ideally, it should be 304A. What lies in our hand? When the 304 is applied, we have to argue and put it under the 304A. That is only. And if that is also not possible, in that Pune case, they went for the writ petition at the High Court, and when it was filed in the High Court, they gave the judgment. Same thing happened with the Ratnagiri case, where the telephonic consultation was done. There also 304 was applied, because we were having knowledge that your nursing home is not having qualified doctor, nursing home is not having qualified nurses. Then, therefore, we are with the knowledge. Then how you inform? So there was 304 was lodged, but then again, when it went to the Supreme Court, they were given the bail. That is apart. So 304 is also interpretation with knowledge. If they can interpret their knowledge, then it is a problem. Got it, sir? Got it, sir?
Excellent.
We are getting the information that we have already exceeded.
Sir, I have one last question. Actually, there is a confidentiality issue while we are having some softwares like Docon, and it is mediated to third party, and there is an online prescription in this. So between doctor and patient, there is a third channel. So what are the implications of the confidentiality issue in such type of cases?
Dr. Tiwari would like to explain,
Yeah.
or Dr. Raja Kumar, anyone.
Yes, sir. Definitely, it will come under Consumer Protection Act, sir. If there is any mischievous things they are doing, you can complain on them with proof. Directly to the Central Consumer Authority, so that they will take action.
We're talking about
whether such type of software in which third party administration is there is coming under confidentiality issue, or it is not? So the question is that.
Yeah.
Dr. Tiwari, sir.
Confidentiality is always to be maintained, even according to the Medical Council of India. It has to be maintained. But as far as the Docon or other softwares are there, they make a contract, and it is such a lengthy thing that ultimately we say agree. So in such clauses, if there is something like that for question you have put, so the clause is there, probably they not under this jurisdiction. Dr. Tiwari sir may highlight more.
See, the telemedicine laws are not very well made in India as such. Only during this period of COVID, they have allowed this telemedicine and all. But so since the laws are not there, it is very, very open thing.
Actually, sir, telemedicine issue is different. Actually, with telemedicine issue, there is an implied consent from the patient. But in such software, there is a contact between company and the doctor. There is no contact or no consent from the patient. So this is an issue. So this is such questions from my colleagues. So
there are two persons are there. One is provider, service provider. One is receiver. Then you will become a consumer in that case.
Sir, the companies are authorized to do this telephonic consultation. Actually, they have to sign the MOU contract with the state government or the central government, and then only they are given the permission to have this software and the connection with the doctors and this everything that is there. So we have to inquire from the person who is giving that app or the software. We have to we have to find out whether they have the MOU signed by the state government or the central government regarding this confidentiality. Yes, Dr. Tiwari sir, any addition?
Dr. Hemant, you are getting a repeated message that you are exceeding the time.
Okay. Okay.
So I think Dr. B.B. Sani sir should summarize and tell the vote of thanks and whatever is their final.
Doctor, आपका link टूट गया था. हाँ, both of them, Dr. Sani, Dr. Tiwari sir, and then we will conclude.
Yeah,
we have
Dr. Sani sir, please go ahead. We don't want to waste more time.
Okay. We have
Please
all had a very,
summarize.
very good discussion, very, very fruitful discussion in which we participated, and many new things I came to know today. Some of the things which I had been missing in regarding pass and regarding this insurance thing. So thank you to all of them. And thank you all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Tiwari sir,
Thank you.
Dr. Tiwari sir,
Yes.
Dr. Tiwari sir, last concluding remark, then we will end.
No, I think we must appreciate the efforts taken by our faculties, and of course the efforts taken by Dr. Hemant in conducting these all the 3 webinars. I think it would have not been possible without your active involvement, and we hope this time there was no proper response from the
Yes.
attendees, because probably we failed in having proper advertisement or proper information and promotion of our webinars. So I think next time when we take such webinars, we see that there is no overlapping with other IP webinars. That is the most important thing. And of course, the another issue this time was of the ongoing breastfeeding week also. So most of our colleagues, they are busy with webinar on breastfeeding. So all
War
these
module is
things
going
we
on,
should
war,
There
antibiotics.
are
Yes.
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 So thank you again from the IYC medical legal chapter. And
Sir, this is the
from the
this is the
yes.
yes, sir. As this is the last one, our Maha-IP president, who has taken all the things to get crystallized. Last
Yeah.
final comments, remarks by Dr. Jayant Pandrikar sir, our beloved Maha-IP president. Please, Dr. Jayant sir.
Thank you, Hemant sir. I must thank you in person and Dr. Satish Tiwari sir for arranging all these all the 3 webinars on different medical legal issues which we come across in our medical practice. I once again thank all the learned faculties of all the 3 days of 3 webinars, and definitely we had very nice discussions, except we couldn't get many viewers because of concurrent so many webinars taking place all over the India, and that too we are having WW week also going on. Anyway, but this was a very good learning experience for all of us. And thank you very much once again to Sahani sir and all the faculties of today's and last webinars also. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to worry, no, not to worry. All the faculties, this all 3 webinars will be are recorded. They will be going on our IIP website, so they will be there. The people may attendance की बात नहीं. We have put our efforts, and it was fun, and it was learning experience with all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And my thanks to DIP team also. DIP team, Archana. Thank you very much.